This is Callum Johnson and you're watching Sporting Icons.
So in this video, I want to talk about Vasyl Lomachenko versus Anthony Crolla. And then, of course, after the fight, Vasyl Lomachenko calling out Luke Campbell for a fight with potentially the WBC title on the line and the fight being in the UK. So that is great news if they can get that one over the line. But to start off with Lomachenko versus Crolla, this was a one-sided beatdown for Vasyl Lomachenko. The first round was pretty cagey from either one of them. Nothing to really talk about in round number one. Round number two as well. I mean, if I were to be really, really generous, maybe I could give it a draw for the second round, potentially, as Crolla did land some pretty good shots with him and cut the left eye of Lomachenko in this one as well. But round number three was all pretty much one-sided. Vasyl Lomachenko, he just came into his own. He did, and was teeing off combinations on Crolla that looked deadly. And ultimately, the referee gave it a 10-8 round to Lomachenko by giving Crolla a standing 8 count. Now, he didn't touch the canvas, and I watched the replay and I didn't see it. So unless there's another angle, I didn't see it as a touchdown. But ultimately, I think that the referee was ultimately giving him a bit more of a fighting chance to ease off Lomachenko, give Crolla a little bit of a breather. But the writing was on the wall, that's for sure. Round number four, same thing happened. Lomachenko just dogging him and then caught him with a massive shot. Crolla went down and that was it. So congratulations to Vasyl Lomachenko. And this fight went pretty much how most people predicted it. I mean, I'd have probably said that he may have gone a couple more rounds longer than that one, but anyway, there's always only going to be one winner. Now, people can talk about mismatches and how these kind of fights shouldn't happen, but please bear in mind that Lomachenko had no choice but to fight Crolla because Crolla was his mandatory, okay? You could say that maybe Crolla shouldn't have taken that fight, but again, he was mandatory. So why would you get yourself into a mandatory position or have your promoter like Eddie Hearn allow you to get into that kind of position, get that kind of fight and then not take it? Listen, at least he's got some guts, okay? So people can't pour cold water on this fight at all, in my opinion, purely for the mandatory reasons. Now, if you want to talk about mismatches, for me, a mismatch is Canelo versus Amir Khan, Triple G versus Kell Brook, Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia. Ones like that, purely because they're not fighting at a legitimate weight, okay? One fighter is being brought right the way up, and it's an unfair mismatch, okay? So you can't put Crolla versus Lomachenko in the mismatch category from that kind of standpoint. You could say skill-wise, sure. Power-wise, sure. Because to defeat or even give Lomachenko problems, you need to have some power. That's something that Anthony Crolla just didn't have. But again, if you want to pour cold water on Vasyl Lomachenko for defeating Anthony Crolla and call Crolla garbage, listen, you need to be watching boxing a bit more. Anthony Crolla, while he's not on the same level as Lomachenko, and that's because of Lomachenko. Lomachenko, is there anybody who's on the same level as him in or around his weight division? I don't think there is. Okay, so Crolla, former world champion. Anthony Crolla defeated Ricky Burns. But yet people were giving Terence Crawford praise for defeating Ricky Burns. So how could you not give Lomachenko credit for defeating Anthony Crolla when Anthony Crolla defeated the guy people were giving credit for against Ricky Burns and Terence Crawford when Anthony Crolla defeated Ricky Burns? Julius Ndongo against Terence Crawford. Again, complete mismatch from that kind of standpoint as far as skill and power goes. But listen, I can understand, but thing is that Lomachenko is just that good, okay? Now, again, when you're looking at avoidance, no, Crolla should not have avoided Lomachenko, and I'd have been on his case. Even though we knew what was going to happen, I'd have been on his case for ducking him. But in some ways, there's no shame in ducking fighters that you know you can't beat. Other fighters do it and they get away with it because they have the fan base to back up and make excuses for them. Okay, for example, Gervonta Davis has been blatantly ducking Lomachenko. Mikey Garcia would rather fight a guy 2 weight divisions above him in Errol Spence Jr. rather than fight a guy in his own weight division in Lomachenko. He'd rather take a loss to Errol Spence than take a loss to Lomachenko. That is a duck. Deontay Wilder not fighting Anthony Joshua even for $120 million. That is a duck. Consistently calling out Joshua and then not signing the paperwork, not having proper talks. That is a duck. And the list goes on. We could even say about two of my favourite fighters, Scott Quigg and Carl Frampton, both ducked Guillermo Rigondeaux. They did. This is a duck. Okay. Now, moving on from all that. So after the fight, what kind of fight is next? Potentially Richard Commey for unification for the IBF as well. Now, this is a fight that was supposed to have happened beforehand, but Richard Commey got injured, pulled out the fight, which is why Lomachenko versus Crolla had to happen. Okay, so maybe they could set up a fight with that one, but he's more interested in the WBC one against Mikey Garcia. Now, Mikey Garcia may be a little bit more at ease in taking a fight with Lomachenko now, saying, well, you know, I've just come off of a defeat to Errol Spence Jr. in a fight where I was too small, and now I felt weight drained. So he could legitimately take a Lomachenko fight now. But if he can't make the weight anymore, as in Mikey Garcia, then it looks like he could be vacating the WBC, or he may get it taken off of him anyway. In which case, Luke Campbell may have a fight for that title. And Lomachenko said that he would even be willing to come to the UK and take on Luke Campbell. Luke Campbell was part of the Matchroom Eddie Hearn stable as well. But if anything goes to any kind of purse bid, Bob Arum is always going to beat Eddie Hearn. For some reason, even though Eddie Hearn has got this billion-dollar contract with DAZN, he keeps losing purse bids. It's bizarre for me. It is truly bizarre. And much like the Anthony Crolla fight, even though he was never going to win that fight, no matter where it was in the world, Eddie Hearn should have at least tried to put the fight on in the UK. That's my honest opinion. At least give him some kind of home court advantage, as in give him a bit more as far as the crowd goes, because it would be very pro Anthony Crolla. And I know a lot of people did travel for him, so big up to you guys who did. But against Luke Campbell, again, hopefully they can make it in the UK. And if it does go to purse bid, hopefully Eddie Hearn puts a bit more emphasis on getting that one over here. Give Luke Campbell at least the crowd advantage. Okay, but ultimately, again, you've got to say that Lomachenko will be the favourite in this one, as Luke Campbell did lose to Jorge Linares. Jorge Linares lost to Lomachenko, but saying that, for me, I personally just had Luke Campbell edging that fight with Linares and didn't get the decision. But if you had the Linares winning, then you did. That's cool. And personally, I have no issues with that one. But for me personally, listen, Crolla versus Lomachenko was not a mismatch. They're in the same weight division. Skill-wise, certainly, it was a mismatch. Anybody within their own weight division is never really a mismatch. You can kind of draw exceptions to that when it comes to cruiserweight and heavyweight, because the weight is so different, it's so vast. Okay, so again, you could say, for example, you know, if Anthony Joshua was to take on, say, Razvan Kajanu, that's a complete mismatch. You could say that one, even though that these guys will be not far off the same kind of weight, but because of the skill level, it's so far apart. So in that sense, it is a mismatch, but in other ways, it's not. So Lomachenko fighting Crolla is not a mismatch, just isn't. Okay, it's a fight that both of them should legitimately take, as it would be Lomachenko versus Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis don't want that fight. Mikey Garcia just didn't want that fight up until now with Lomachenko. So big up to Anthony Crolla for taking it. I mean, it does seem to me that there's like a lot of mismatches in boxing lately. And to be honest, I don't really want to say it, but Eddie Hearn is at the back of this one, where he's throwing the likes of Rocky Fielding in with Canelo. Again, complete mismatch. Always selling it as, well, they've got a chance. Does that one punch will change? Yeah, one punch can change, and bigger upsets have happened in boxing, but it's very rare it happens, right? And I think Eddie Hearn needs to stop throwing his fighters to the wolves, as in he threw Kell Brook to Triple G. Crolla against Lomachenko, but again, as I said, you can't really argue that one too much. Rocky Fielding, of course, super middleweight, Canelo was coming up. So again, you could probably argue with it, but these guys were never going to win, and it seems like that Eddie Hearn was just doing it just to be part of a show with Lomachenko, to be part of a show with Canelo, to be part of a show with Triple G. Okay, so for me, I think that Eddie Hearn needs to start making or protecting his fighters a bit better, because sometimes some fighters are just that damn good that it's never going to win, and Lomachenko was always going to beat Crolla. And as I said, had Crolla not accepted the fight, I'd have been on his back for not accepting it. But in some ways, if other fighters like Gervonta Davis and Mikey Garcia are blatantly ducking, you know, who am I to have a go at Anthony Crolla for that, right? But anyway, I mean, that's my thoughts on the whole situation, and hopefully we do get a WBC title on the line if Mike Garcia can vacate it or whatever it may be. If he doesn't fancy the Lomachenko fight, if he can't make weight, then have Luke Campbell go up against Vasyl Lomachenko in the UK. That'd be brilliant. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it all. Of course, you drop me yours, click the thumbs up to this video, and of course, subscribe. Catch you all on the next one.